Hello everyone, and welcome to this communications workshop on this first day of the 7th E&E Congress, coming to you virtually from Madrid. Thank you for making the effort to tune in. For those of you who didn't manage to follow the opening session, I'm Aminda Lee. I'm a British-Italian journalist and moderator. I specialise in environmental topics and research and innovation. And I'm logging in from Rome, where the weather is so hot, I need this. I'm joined today by 6 eminent panelists who have communication stories to share with us. Let's see them on the screen now, and we'll say hello to them. Here they are coming and joining us. Okay, we're all present. And now I'll start to introduce them. First, we have Joanna Andreasen, who is Marketing Manager, Eurobitume in Stockholm, Sweden. Please say hello.
Hi, everyone.
We have Esther Magorka, who is Vice President of Marketing at Napa in Maryland in the USA. Good morning to you.
Good morning or good afternoon to everyone over there in Europe.
We have Cora Lukas, who is the Technical Assistance and Asphalt Business Development Manager at Repsol in Madrid.
Hello, good afternoon, Aminda.
Good afternoon. And we have Suzanne Gross-Mattei, who is Sales and Marketing Manager Europe in the Asphalt Division at Sasol in Hamburg, Germany.
Hello, everyone.
Then we have Horst Erdlin, who is Global Head of Business Unit, Functional Asphalt Additives at JRS in Germany.
Hi over there, and buenas tardes.
And last, but certainly not least, we have Juan Jose Potti. You may have seen him in the opening session. He is President of AFSMA and President of EAPA.
Hello, everyone. Buenas tardes. Perfectly pronounced, host. Congratulations. And very nice you, abanico, Aminda.
So these are our panelists, and I'm going to explain how this workshop's going to run in a moment. But first, I have some practical announcements. We want to make the discussions obviously as interactive as possible. This is about communication. And so we'd like you to send in your questions for the speakers via the box on the right-hand side of your screen. Once the questions have been moderated, everyone can see them and they can vote on them too. I'll try to come to the top voted questions. In that same box, there's a tab called Vote Polls, and this is where we'll be running a couple of polls this afternoon. You just need to click on the tab, and when the question appears, cast your vote, and then we'll see the results in real time. If you have any technical issues, contact the technical support desk in the virtual lobby. And of course, we're talking about communication here, so spread the message via the hashtag E&E Congress 2021. Use those social media contacts and channels. Now, everybody knows that communication can be hard to get right, but which aspects do you find most difficult? To find out, I'm now going to launch a poll on Slido. And it's poll 1, and if you go to the polls tab on the right-hand side panel of your screen, you should be able to see the question. And the question is, what are your top 3 most common challenges you have to manage when organizing a typical communication task? Is it understanding target audiences? Is it building public awareness? Is it overcoming negative perceptions? Or maybe it's conducting effective market research. Or is it undervaluing the role of communications? Or perhaps you've got a problem with embracing digital tools and platforms. Or maybe it's mobilizing potential communicators. I'm now going to leave the voting open on the poll, and you'll be able to see it for a while I explain how this workshop is going to work. So if we could launch the poll, and here's the poll. And so please do vote on it. You should be able to see it on your screens. I'm just seeing, we've got answers coming in already. That's great. Okay, well, keep answering, please. And we're looking for your top 3 most common challenges. So while the voting is going on, I'm going to explain how this workshop runs. We're going to hear examples of communication projects from each of our speakers. After each experience, I'm going to get reaction from the other panelists, and then come to your questions on that topic. So send them in quickly so that we can get to them as we're actually going through. Don't wait till the end of the session. It's a question all the way through on each topic. Keep on voting on Slido. I can see that we've got 16 votes coming in. I'm sure there are more than 16 of you watching. Go on, have a go. You won't get judged on the leaderboard, or maybe you will get judged on the leaderboard for voting in Slido. That would have been a good one to get you voting quickly. I see there's more coming in now. Right, I'm going to keep that open for another few moments. Let's see if we can get up to maybe 30 responses. We've got 24 so far. Let's just keep it going. Overcoming negative perceptions is really a big one, and understanding target audiences too. They're your top two at the moment. Conducting effective market research. Oh, that doesn't seem to be a very common problem. Interesting. Right. Well, I think what I'm going to do is I'm now going to close that vote. So if we could stop the voting on Slido now. Thank you for doing that. Interesting that you talk about overcoming negative perceptions and understanding the target audiences, but also undervaluing the role of communication. That's interesting. Overcoming negative perceptions is coming up on the back front there. It's coming up to us, but it's still understanding the target audience. It's always a difficult one. Okay, well, I think we will stop the voting on that now. Thank you very much indeed. And what I'd like to do is now start off with our stories. We have each of our stories relates to one of the challenges that you were asked to rate just now. And this PowerPoint slide summarizes the first experience that we're going to share with you. And it actually matches your top one preoccupation, the thing that you're worried about the most. It's understanding target audiences. So the scope is defining target audiences for an association. It's then the challenge was managing expectations of members. The solution was segmentation and prioritization. And it was, what was the added value? Agreeing achievable goals. And to tell us more, I'm now joined by Joanna Andreasson from Eurobitume in Sweden. Joanna.
Yes, hi.
So can you tell us briefly, what was this project about?
So this was a project that I was involved in my role as the chair of the Public Relations and Communications Committee of Eurobitume. And we had target audiences defined, but they had a couple of years, the definition had a couple of years on it. So we needed to review that because the world is changing, of course. There was also coming up every few years, there was pressure coming up to also include the general public. So we wanted to have a discussion on that in the committee and come up with what do we see that we want and can focus on, because at the end of the day, we are not a huge association, and as with every organization, resources are limited. What we did was that we involved all of the participants in the committee using an iterative approach and developed actually a primary target group definition and a secondary target group definition, and ended up focusing the communication to the general public on primarily HSSE issues. So what we do going forward is that whenever we are communicating about sustainability issues or health and safety issues that could be of interest to the general public, so general information about bitumen and health and safety, then we make sure that the tonality and the language that we use is also suitable for this secondary target audience.
Not easy. That must have been quite a challenge.
No. Yes.
Yeah. So how did you manage to get that double communication going?
I think I will say that it's not so much the communication as such that's the challenge. I think it is getting the buy-in and the understanding, to be fair, from wider stakeholder audience within the association, because of course we all want to reach the general public, and as we heard in the opening session, it is an important thing to highlight the importance of roads. But for an association on its own to reach the general public, it's simply not feasible due to resource restrictions. So I think we managed to get the buy-in from the members that this is how we will approach it. And then I think it's about building communication networks involving perhaps stakeholder groups and other associations that we haven't involved ourselves with, that maybe have a bigger footprint, but where we can combine our messaging.
And so that combined messaging, that was the most valuable thing, was it?
Yes, I think getting to a stage where we know who we are directing ourselves at, and that this is set for a number of years going forward, allows us to build a more solid strategy, really, for how to reach the right target audiences. Because if you reevaluate who you're going to approach each year, then you're going to have a very tricky situation on your hands in developing a long-term strategy.
Exactly, yes. I mean, it's virtually impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think I'd like to bring in the other panelists now to discuss your example. If we could get them to join us all, great. Okay. The wonders of technology. This is fantastic. Okay. So who has any other ideas or would like to react to what we've heard from Joanna about target audiences and understanding them? Suzanne?
Yes. I think it's very true what Joanna just said. What we sometimes are struggling with is to see the message we want to convey or the topic through the eyes of the target group we're reaching. We have lots of facts and figures that we can provide, but especially when addressing the public audience, we need to make sure they understand the message we want to get through. And it's probably not the facts that makes us being heard, but it's more, I would say, on an emotional level where we reach the people and what makes them understand how this impacts their daily lives.
Okay, I can see everyone nodding like mad here. Yes, it's quite difficult though to. I mean, where do you find that information? Is it expensive? Is it long? Is it a long process? Joanna?
If you mean about market research into the general public, I think that is not something that we have done, and it goes into what I talked about resources before. I think for us as an association, I think the important thing for us is to make sure that the general public has the knowledge that they need in order to feel comfortable with the material that is bitumen. Because if the general public comes to our channels, it is probably because they have some interest. There might be a new bitumen depot or a new asphalt plant or something coming up in their vicinity, or they've read something about roads and how horrible they are. And then we need to provide the information to them in a way, exactly as Susanne said, that they can understand and they can relate to their everyday life, to tell them that, in fact, there is no danger, and the material that we are working with is something that provides value to them in their everyday, when they go to work, when they go to school, when they go to fetch the kids, etc. So,
Kuro, did you want to come in?
Yes, thank you. I mean, I worked with Johanna in the last 2 or 3 years in the PCR committee. Hello, Johanna.
Hi.
I think, of course, I really agree with everything you're saying. I think that one of the most important things is not only which is your audience and where is your audience, and choose the correct channel to put the focus in that audience. So it's my little vision of that.
That's a very important point, because if you're talking to them in the wrong place, you'll never get to them. So yeah, very, very important. Anyone else want to add anything? Horst?
There's another thing I would like to add, and this is what is the interest of our main audience if you talk about public? And I think we shouldn't split that down to the ingredients, to the components of the asphalt, but we should talk about the benefits and the added value we can give to the public, because the public looks at things very different compared to what we do every day, because we are swimming in this black soup, yeah, every single day. But what do I expect as a road user? I expect as a road user that my black Merc takes me from A to B in a very comfortable and very safe way. And this is, at the end of the day, what we have to communicate. Plus, with that part of communication, there is another thing which we should affect. And this is, for me, attracting the young people, like all of you, except Body and me. We are the old guys. Attract young people to find this industry attractive to join, because this is our biggest challenge for the future, getting more and more people involved. People like, yes, you, except Body and me.
No, well, that's interesting. I mean, that's another level of communication as well, isn't it, Joanna?
Yeah, just a comment on that. I think that that is partly why we as a single association have chosen not to have the general public as a main target group. To reach that target group, we need to work in a much wider network as an industry, and more than just an industry. I think that we need to connect much more with logistics companies, with the heavy manufacturing industry in Europe, etc., because we know that those industries have the ears of the politicians, they have the ears of the media, and that is, we all have a shared interest in promoting the road as the arteries of Europe. And I think that this is what we need to do. But for a single association, I think that it is vitally important to also deselect some target audiences, because if you don't do that, you will never be effective with the communication that you're actually trying to do. So I fully agree that we need to reach the general public and show the value of the road. But I think that that is not something that a single association can do. I don't think that EAPA on their own can do that. And I don't think that Eurobitume on their own can do that. And perhaps even together with Asphalt Advantages, we're not able to do that. Maybe we need more alliances.
Okay, right. I know I'm conscious that we're not going to be able to hear from everyone every round, so don't feel like I'm ignoring you. Okay, Juan Jose and Esther, I'm not. I know. And one more important thing, there's going to be a future leaders session on Thursday, and the focus is on how to be attractive to new recruits and experts. So that picks up on your point here, Horst, as well. So that's very valuable. Okay, well, that's the end of this experience. Thank you, Joanna, for sharing. And now we're going to move on to the next one, please. And this is our second experience. Our panelists whiz away and they can have a bit of a break for a second. And now we're going to see this experience two. And this is the Watch for Us. And the scope is to raise public awareness about an issue related to safety and encourage support by changing their behavior. That's not an easy thing. The challenge was to gain acceptance and adoption. The solution was educate and provide incentives. And the added value value was creating interest through videos and gamifications. And to tell us more about this, I'd now like to be joined by Esther Magorka from Napa in the USA. Hello. And the last time we didn't have any questions sent in. If you've got questions about what we're talking about, please do send them in, because we're going to put them in the panel discussion at the end. So we're waiting for your questions. I see we've got hi saying, anonymous saying hi, but some good questions would be good too. Thank you very much. So Esther, can you tell us about this Watch for Us project and why was it started?
Absolutely. So good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. So the Watch for Us campaign really started back in 2017, trying to deal with the issue of distracted driving in our work zones. We had a worker come to us and say, what are you doing to protect our workers? And as Johanna just pointed out, it's really hard for associations to get buy-in from the general public. We are a small group with a very closed budget. So we wanted to figure out a way that we could develop materials, whether that was videos, printables, shareables, social media, we have op-eds, we have all tons of stuff. How we can develop all these things and get partners involved. So that's kind of where it all started.
And what were the biggest challenges? I mean, it sounds enormous with a lot of different things that you had to keep across. So what was the biggest one out of all of them? I
think the biggest challenge is kind of twofold. One, mobilizing our membership, really. So looking across, we have 1,200 kind of members that are involved within NAPA. And so getting these businesses mobilized and enhancing the safety message. As you pointed out earlier, Aminda, all of us are communicators, right? So using your social media channels and really kind of being effective in that messaging is really important. So we looked at that way, but then also just the limited budget that associations have. So we wanted to work with other partners. So we've had 21 partners over the last couple of years added to our campaign, and those are national and state. So we're actually working this year with the National Safety Council, which is huge here in the US, to help them push out our messages rather than us doing it all by ourselves. So
excellent. That sounds like a smart solution. Getting other people to help you in your work and also get to a wider audience as well. And so the actions that were most valuable?
So really the most valuable thing is kind of, we put together this toolkit that basically is about 21 pages of all of the stuff that you can have and you can do that we've created over the years. And every year we work with our partners, reaching out to them months ahead of time and showcasing what is in our toolkit, all the stuff that's available for free. And then this year we also created a contest because contractors are highly competitive human beings. So we created a giveaway contest to really have them use the materials, and whoever did the best won a national contest where they won Arctic coolers, which is really big here in the US as well.
Wow. Okay. Very, very interesting. I'm sure the other panelists have got lots of questions to ask you, and we've got questions coming in. Excuse me, I couldn't see your questions before. I now see that we have more of them, which is good. Please keep sending them in. And can we have our other panelists joining us? Thank you. Okay, we're a full house again. Who would like to react to what they've heard? I mean, it sounds like a big campaign, and everyone's talking about few resources and not much time. Any reactions from anyone? Juan Jose?
Yes, please. Thank you, Esther. My question is, you try to mobilize any people, I imagine, a driver around not only America and around the world. Which is your strategy, or which is your strategy? Yes, is the best word to mobilize, to try to mobilize, and which is your figures, which is your level of mobilization? Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So one of the things that I think is always challenging for communications and marketing professionals is that quantification and those metrics. So one of the things that we have done is really look at doing some paid social. So we did about 100 posts this year. Only about 19 of them were paid. And we were able to get over 290,000 people engaged in those. And so, our cost was really low. It was about $1,000, $1,300. But we actually saw that our campaign, because we are playing with people's emotions, as we kind of already talked about, and we're taking it to a very personal level. So our videos are all about the human experience. They're not really dwelling on those facts and figures, because we know the driving public doesn't care about that. So on Facebook, our kind of campaign metrics were about 21% engagement, and normally it's less than 0.09%. So we kind of see that the campaign is hugely effective from an engagement standpoint, just on social alone, and we've been really kind of thrilled with that. And it's been a trending thing over the years as well.
Joanna, you wanted to come in?
No, I just thought the gamification thing is really interesting, because we know that excites people. So it's a really good choice, and I think the metrics that you're talking about are excellent. And I know that it's something that Eurobitume will want to move forward with in terms of paid a little more. We've sort of been setting the stage. It's difficult to do everything at once, but certainly. It's a very cost-effective method.
Yeah, and that all goes back to like testing it a little bit and seeing which platforms work. Yeah. But you can be highly effective with just a little bit amount of money. I think people don't recognize like how many views you can get with just $100.
Yeah. Exactly. So this is good that we're exploding that myth here. That's great. Now, going to some of the questions we've got in. The top voted question so far is from Bernd Hinrich, who says, marketing to the public costs a lot of money and manpower. I don't think we put enough money into our marketing, and he wants to know what the panelists' opinion are. So, well, we've kind of already started that discussion. So who would like to take it further? I mean, obviously, Esther, you have this example to give us, but does anyone else, do you do enough marketing? Everyone thinks they do. Yes. Esther?
I think that there's multiple ways to reach your target audience. As Kira was saying earlier, right? Your channel is really important. So knowing where people are and having some good, I'm a market research kind of a girl, so having some good research about what communication channels your audience is using is really important to make sure that you're meeting your audience where they lie. So can you always put more money in? Yes, but I don't think money is always the solution. Sometimes it's really kind of diversification of the channels that you're using, and sometimes it's doubling down on the channels that you already have and where your members or your channels are, your target audience is at.
Okay, Horst?
I think Bernd Hinrich's question is a very valuable one, because as a commercial company, we do a lot of marketing, because this is what we live for, and which gets us something back from our customers around the world. But if we take a look into the industry itself, we have the good, the bad, and the ugly. If you're traveling around the world, you see exactly so many differences in the way they do marketing and the amount of marketing they are putting into their efforts to make this black gold really a valuable black gold. And I must say, in America, Esther, you do a fantastic job with this painted black and all that stuff, which is very good. I saw excellent examples down under, and if you look around Europe, well, you have guys like Kuro and Juan Jose who are really pushing. EAPA is pushing. The Eurobitume is pushing. But do we have these pushers in every single European country? And there I must say, I have my doubts.
And interesting you say that, because there was a question that says E&E is focused on Europe, from your experience, how important is it to address the specifics in individual countries in PR, for example, the channels, also languages as well? Joanna? And then I'll come back to you, Horst.
This is a real challenge, of course. And an association such as Eurobitume, which has local initiatives in select markets, there we're able to do a lot more. But it is a challenge that we need to work more on, I would say, from our perspective. Because at the end of the day, it also depends on what is it that we're trying to communicate. Are we trying to advocate for roads, for instance? We know that those decisions are not made on a European level. Those decisions are made on a national level and a regional level and a local level. So if that is the message that we want to advocate, we need to work locally, because there are specificities, certainly. And I can just say for Eurobitume that this is something that we need to work more on going forward, I would say. But again, I come back to the networks. I think that it's also about building local networks, regional networks, etc., for the association where it's active.
Okay, thank you. Horst, just very briefly, because I'm going to move on to the next subject, and we'll come to the other people who've not spoken in a minute.
That short. To summarize that, what Johanna said, there's an old saying, and this is what we always need to follow. If you are a global player, think global, but act local. And this is where the secrets of marketing are unlocked then.
Okay, thank you. Well, that's a great finishing from our panelists. Just to also add two things that came in from Malcolm Sims. He said, we do market research in the UK with our clients who also need to communicate with the public on the value they provide from roads to leverage the message. So that's interesting. And he also then added something which is a bit more negative, which was about the safety element, which has got to the stage now that we, the UK, have sought to make harm, abuse of road workers to be a specific criminal offence. Well, that's really not the way we want to go forward. But anyway, I think gamification is a better way to get the message across if we can. Right. Okay. Thank you for all our panelists for this one. Thank you, Esther. We're now going to go to our next experience. And this is about overcoming negative oh, no, it isn't overcoming negative emotions. I've got my wrong page here. This one is World Road Day. Okay, right. And we're going to hear about that from Curro. We're going to hear what is the scope of the project was to celebrate the road. The challenge was to encourage emotions and feelings from all audiences, not only from those within the profession, but also road users in general. The solution was the use of social media, and this is becoming a popular topic, to mobilize wider engagement. And adding value was keeping it simple, economical, and focus on the day. And so to tell us more about that, I'm now joined by Curro Lucas from Repsol in Madrid. So can you tell us what was the aim of World Road Day?
Good afternoon again, Aminda. First of all, let me, I'm here now in Madrid, real, no virtual.
Lucky you.
Let me give you the thank you, like the member of the organization committee, for your nice words this morning to my city. Okay, World Road Day. World Road Day is not an organizational project. It's an individual project, a personal project, funded by two people. You've got here in this session both of them, Juan Jose Poti, that you meet this morning, and me. And it's very easy to explain that. I employ the social media since 10 or 11 years in the professional way, of course. And I observed that the science, the environment, the spaghettis, all of that has got a day, an international day. And I say, what happens with the road? Probably one of the most important things in our life. Why don't create that? That's great. So I speak with Juanjo. He was very agreeing with me and began to do that. The target, of course, is not the target of, for example, the E&E Congress 2021, because more or less all of us we knew. We wanted to take to the people, all the people. I rephrase the last words of Horst about a global target. It was very difficult, but I thought that the most important thing to get to all the people is touching their hearts. The communication is between persons. I say all the time, the companies really don't communicate. There are people that they are behind of the logos of our companies. So it's very important to connect with your audience, touching.
This is a bit we've already heard emotion.
Yes.
Emotion being very important.
Yes.
And so, I mean, you can't just decide I'm going to set up a World Road Day and here it is. How does that happen? I'm sure that was a big challenge.
An explosion. We create the World Road Day in English and the hashtag World Road Day, and we create the Día Mundial, the hashtag Día Mundial de Carretera, create a website and began to and choose the 11th October because 100 years ago was the first Congress about the World Association of the Roads. We choose that day, and it's very important, that the most important things to give movement, engagement is the 0.0. And if you choose the adequate persons, this moment is very easy. I think this hashtag, this event belong to the road, is the most viewed in social media, Twitter account, of course, with more than 60 million of impressions each year, with more than 3,000 Twitter accounts speaking, writing about the road, and a very high level of good feeling with the road.
So this obviously created momentum and it got discussions going.
Yes, that's true. Of course, we are open to answering the question. Open that some people say, "Oh, what happens with the roads? They are broken. Perhaps some deaths in the road." So it's important for us to say to our politicians and all around the world, it's important the road for the people. So the asphalt is too.
Okay, well, thank you for that. I'm now going to bring in the other panelists. Come back to us. And here they are, the intrepid panelists behind the scenes, now back with us. What do you think about this? Well, obviously, okay. Juan Jose, I have to start with you because you were obviously co-creator of this campaign.
I think it was an excellent idea. Congratulations. No, it was a big pleasure from the first moment to collaborate with Curro. It's a personal project, and the angle, the difference with another initiative, we try to have as a day, not in terms of the sector, not to demonstrate the importance of the roads, not showing the importance in our lives of the roads. So explaining the feelings the road promoting in our health, trying to give other point of view. At my opinion, the roads are one of the most important, probably the most important infrastructure outside the internet, evidently. This is the question, but it's not only infrastructure, it's much more than this.
Esther?
We found here in the US, and I don't know how applicable it is for you all, but that using the word connecting and like really highlighting the connections that are made for people, whether it's to their homes, whether it's to their friends, whether it's to, you know, goods and services that they need, but really kind of talking to them about those connections that are binding them, and kind of using that terminology is really helpful, especially because that's what during COVID, and we've all been locked down, that's what people were missing. So we found out, especially this last year, that is a really profound messaging that has helped in this space as well. But great job.
Horst and Suzanne?
But you know, Esther, you have a big advantage. All of you, what is it, 350 million people, they speak the same language. And if you go around the world, we have, what, 7, 8, 9 billion people? And we have so many different languages, so many different cultures. And we really have to think about how we address them. The World Road Day is, for me, a good media to do that. It's very well accepted if you go down. Well, this has something to do with the language, of course. If you go down Latin America, they love the World Road Day. But we need to focus more on World Road Day. So what about the Chinese? What about the Japanese, the Koreans, the Filipinos? We need to get them involved, you know? But guys, you know, te quiero mucho. You guys did a great job with the World Road Day.
Okay, that's good. Suzanne?
Yeah, I have a question, which is, do you reach the people you are hoping for? Do you get engagement from a lot of people, let's say, outside of the community?
Kuro?
I am now happy. I am very, very, very happy because I say you, the most important thing is that the ball began to round. But when the ball began to round, it's autonomous. So it's important to select the language. For example, you know, I am the technical manager of one important company in Spain, and I am employing my social media accounts not in a technical language, you know, in my social media. I'm trying to select the right words to go out about the endogamic. So it's important to manage that kind of language. So I said you before, 3,000, more than 3,000 accounts and more than 60 million of impressions. Never we so similar like that.
Okay, thank you. Oh, can you switch your microphone off, Kuro? Because there seems to be a bit of there. Thank you. Joanna, I want to come to you to a question that's been bubbling along in the questions for a while,
Yeah.
but I think it's quite interesting about how can we control or defend against the misinformation about bitumen asphalt on social media? And this also comes to things like community management as well. If you're going to have a big, you know, event, you're going to or initiative, you need to manage that.
Correct. No, I think it's about doing the monitoring and following the right hashtags and making sure that you pick up on what's being said, and then have a good fact-based but not fact-heavy message to give, because at the end of the day, we are working with an extremely sustainable and highly engineered technical product that is used in some of the most important infrastructure, as we've said before. And I don't think it's not dangerous for us as industries to face those discussions. I think we have very solid information to provide. I saw in the questions, for instance, somebody commenting on the fact that we are working with a material that is 100% reusable. and is one of the most recycled materials in the world. And that is something that we need to keep messaging about. And but I don't think that we should shy away from it, but we need to know where the discussion happens and be able to provide the message.
Yeah, and it's interesting what you talk about, the getting that message across about the recyclability. These sustainable aspects are going to become more and more important, are going to become higher up the priority list. So it's time to start moving them up there, in your communications too.
Correct.
Okay. I'm going to leave this discussion and this experience here. Thank you very much. I'll say bye-bye to the panelists, and off they go again. And now we're going to look at conducting effective market research. And this is our fourth experience, and it's about the workforce development market research. So the scope was understanding the perceptions of our industry from the point of view of new employees. The challenge was recruiting and retaining good resources while managing negative perceptions and poor image. These are all things we're kind of already touching on. The solution was use of qualitative and quantitative marketing research for industry and the public. And the added value was making database decisions to form strategies. And back to discuss this again from the second time from the American contingent, we have Esther Madgorka. Okay, Esther. So tell us a little bit about this this market research.
Yeah. So back in 2019, NAPA underwent a pretty big market research project. We did 10 focus groups with educators and also with members of the general public throughout the US and kind of regionally different areas to see what was going on there. And then we also did 2 surveys, both nationally and regionally significant, trying to understand perceptions of the asphalt pavement industry. And we compared them against 6 competitive sets or 6 competitive industries. So we looked at vertical construction, agriculture, manufacturing, and the like, to really understand where asphalt pavement rated in terms of what people wanted to do. No surprise here, people only liked asphalt like 5th out of 6 competitive industries. Only mining is worse, apparently, in people's initial perceptions. And I saw in some of the comments, people are saying it's dirty, it's labor intensive, and you are absolutely right. That is what people think about it before you can start messaging to them and before you start talking to them. So that's really a broad overview of what we did.
Okay, and obviously, well, I don't know. I was going to ask you what the challenges were, but I'm very interested. What was your reaction when you saw the results from the focus groups? Were you sort of very downhearted and think, how on earth are we going to turn this around?
So we actually learned really to take what people were saying in those surveys and in those focus groups really at face value. What we found was that everybody only thinks of the flagger. They don't really understand the diversity of the work that's available to people within the industry. And they don't know anything about it. While they think they know what road construction is, they don't actually have a clue. So we found that by messaging around 5 things in particular, diversity, that there's equal pay, that there is growth within the industry, that there's opportunities for people to go into different careers and jobs, and that they won't necessarily have college debt, that those really were things that were very persuasive for people and changed their perceptions immediately. So we found that that was really exciting. And I think that nobody will be surprised here, but one of the industries we should really be working with is those educators. We found from educators that they were really open to learning more, and this is at every level. We interviewed elementary, middle, high school, and even college age educators, guidance counselors, VOTEC even, and they really understand the value of construction trade, and they see that it is something that is applicable to their students, and plus, they reach a lot more people every year than just us parents. So.
Absolutely. Okay, well, that's really interesting. This was just a short, brief one in the middle there, because we've still got some more stories to share. Thank you for telling us about that, Esther. And you'll be coming back in our panelists in a moment, because now we're going to move on to the next slide, which is looking at undervaluing the role of communications. And so this is the importance of marketing communications in the industry. The scope was to change perception from nice to have to important to have. Subtle difference there. The challenge was the value of good communications is not always very clear. Solution to make communications a regular topic on the meeting agendas. Interesting. And adding value was the root of role modeling, education, which we've just heard a little bit about, and recognition. And to tell us about this example, I'd now like to Suzanne Gross-Mattei to join me from Sassol in Germany. And don't forget to send in your questions. Please do send them in and keep voting on the questions. We're also seeing comments coming in. Where applicable, we're trying to refer to them, but we're trying to get questions so we can get as many things onto the table as possible for you. So, Suzanne, can you tell us, why did you want to make people understand the importance of marketing communication? Why did you think this was a problem?
Yeah, this is an observation I made in my environment, working in a company, working in sales and marketing, that even in sales and marketing, the role of communications, I wouldn't say is not clear, but the importance is not clear. And like it was said in the statement, this is something which is nice to have. This is something what we do when we, have done all the other things that are considered being more important. And people claiming, saying they're no experts, this is an extra effort, and this is something that others can do. But I mean, we heard that we all can be communicators, and it's not really an effort. It's not in every case and every day that you have to have fancy videos or brochures. It's kind of getting the message across. This is what we want. We get the message across, and we want a positive perception of our industry we're working in. So this is basically where we can all be communicators, and this is what I'm trying to implement also in our environment, because the value is truly clear that communication helps to build and to maintain a good relationship with customers, with your stakeholders, with your audience you're trying to address. It creates transparency, also very, very important, and it builds trust. So this is basically the value that we want, or that is, I'd say, very obvious from communication. And in today where gathering information can be done anytime, anywhere, because it's very much self-directed. You get your information from the internet, and it's not following an 8 to 5 working day. It's whenever people have time, whenever they, browse through the internet, they seek for information, and we need to make sure that we are there to get the right message across, and that we're constantly communicating. I think also very, very important.
Yes, I thought the idea of you having this on regular meetings, making sure that it's always on the agenda. Are you seeing the results of that? I mean, is that bringing results?
It does indeed, showing people that it's not really an effort, that you can, using your social media accounts, simply sharing or liking and getting the message, getting what you want to say spread across your network. That's not something, which is very much time consuming. What also helps is the metrics. We discussed that earlier, is to show people with the content that you have out there, how this is accepted by your target group, how many visitors a website have, what content they're looking at. And just by having this, you can really adjust the content you get out there. What do we need to provide more of? And what it's probably, at least at the moment, not that important. So yes, we do see a positive development here.
Okay, right. Well, let's get our other panelists back now, and I'd like to see if they've got any questions for you, or if if they want to add anything themselves. Where are our panelists? Come back. I'm quite happy to talk to Suzanne on my own, but it's nicer with you. Okay, here you are. Great. So anyone want to come back to Suzanne or add any points about the difficulty of communicating and marketing? And Esther?
I will say this, we've found from an association standpoint that, everybody can be ambassadors, and we all have different people within our organization that we touch and that we kind of interact with on an individual basis. So encouraging staff and other people, not just the marketing and the communications people, to do these activities and to reach out on social can really kind of just bolster the impact of what you're doing. So kind of broadening your horizons outside of kind of a limited group is really helpful as well.
Okay, Curro?
Yes, thank you again. When I give some webinars about communication between engineers, because this is our field, I say, don't worry, the communication has changed in the last 4, 5, 6 years. That is nothing in the time. So be calm. Of course, experiment all the time. Don't have fear to fail with your communication, and try again. And the most important thing is to see and to hear, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Listening is very important as well. Yes, I've got a question that's been sent in, which is quite an interesting one from Christina Smith, who it's a question to everyone. If you wanted to steal communications specialists from another sector, which would it be? That's a difficult one. Anyone got any ideas? Let's see who the quickest thinker is here. Going, Horst?
It should be one of the real global players, one of the big ones, I think the best marketing at the moment is made in sports, whatever it is, if it's NBA, if it's NFL, if it's the German Bundesliga, if it's the Premier League, they are unbelievable. And they talk more or less the same language, but besides that, they are also adjusting their approach to the different countries. For example, in the US, we don't call it football, we call it soccer. And they talk about soccer. And in Asia, it's unbelievable what they're doing. So I would take someone with a lot of experience out of sports, because with all these, I don't want to blame anyone, strange things going on in sports from time to time, they always found a way to soften it again.
So they're good communicating generally, and also they're very good at getting themselves out of a mess when they find themselves in one. Okay, right. Anyone else want to steal someone from a different from a communications department in a different industry? No, you're all very happy with the. I mean, I don't know, even things like, if you're talking about emotions, there's all sorts of industries. Even, for example, the children's toy industry. They know how to get into emotions there. I don't know. It sounds very absurd, but you can learn from every sector. That is for sure. Okay, well, that was a very tough question. Curro. Let's see.
Yes. the last reflection about it, about other sectors. Yes. I want to speak about another sectors that began to do this thing before than us. That is the sector of the architecture. They've got a problem 10 years ago, and they employ the marketing and social media, image and marketing, digital tools, and they are doing the things very, very, very well. And I think it's a sector very similar than us. It's not the same, of course, but they are proud about their buildings, their construction. If you are proud of about your work, you can get to your audience.
Okay, Juan Jose? You're muted, switch your microphone.
Yes, without mute will be much better. Well, it's a reflection. I think about that. I use several times this metaphor, this idea. I consider not evidently one problem, as Horst said, is the global. When you think at global level and you try to apply at local level, it's a question. Evidently, the philosophy, the cultures difference in the world is could be complicated in terms to transmit the same idea. But I think, especially in our sector, I think I used several times, it's like an onion. Why an onion? You see several layers. One layer is the technical people, one layer. Between the technical people, the communication normally share very well. There is a lot of channels, a lot of experience, okay, that's right. Second, other layer, the other managers, the CEO of the company. Well, at this level is not same level, it's totally different. Other problems, competence is totally different at the technical level. Material is machinery, is other. Finally, I feel is one layer, another layer, and they live separately. It's not very normal. And my personal point of view is necessary to find sometimes the transversality. You touch a guy in a company or an association able to transmit at different levels one message, because it will be different depending the level, we will have a big success. It's not so evident. Normally we think about local approach, but I feel in our sector at least, you need to think about your message. It's for the workers, it's for the managers, it's for the technical, it's totally different.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Horst, really quickly, because we need to move on to the next topic, and I also want to put something to Suzanne.
It's very simple. Why do we look for people coming from other sectors if we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 experts here, all thinking the same direction, all knowing what's happening out of the box? And we have the communication committee in the EAPA. We have the people. The only thing we need to do is talk. Let's get loud.
Okay, let's get loud. And Suzanne, someone was agreeing. Anja Sorensen said she thinks it's typical for the technical part of this sector doing good, but forgetting the importance to spread messages actively, and the need to change that. So I thought you would like to hear that before we finish this section. Thank you to our panelists. You can all go away again because we're now going to go to our next experience. And this is about looking at embracing digital tools and platforms with asphalt advocates experience. So the scope was to enable social media as a communication tool. The challenge was low usage, acceptance and awareness within the industry. The solution was education and easy steps. That sounds easy. We'll see. And the adding value was using real examples of best practice to encourage use. And so joining me to discuss this is Horst Erdlin from JRS in Germany. So why is social media such an important communication tool?
Well, because everyone is using social media, whether we talk about Facebook, whether we talk about LinkedIn and Twitter and whatever, Instagram, you cannot overcome this trend anymore. So what has been done before that? We had something in the internet, we made some advertisement in the magazines, which we still do, which is still a part of it. So it means how did we add the social media into that marketing? In the first instance, I had the feeling that the industry wasn't ready yet. but especially with the help of these two Spanish gentlemen, Curo and Juan Jose, who were very, very active on Twitter. They are for me Tweety 1 and Tweety 2. They got Twitter into the industry, and later on, LinkedIn came up, and LinkedIn for me, if I compare all these different social media channels, I think LinkedIn nowadays is the most serious channel to boost marketing activities. What we achieve throughout the years, we are active on LinkedIn. Share, talk, let's get loud, sharing. And also what I did, I was able to motivate the people working for us in different countries to accept that LinkedIn is a good tool and to use that as well. The problem was that in some countries, LinkedIn is blocked. So if, for example, in China, you have some problems to get into LinkedIn or using other media. But anyhow, we overcame that problem. And nowadays, if we post something, we have a lot of posts coming from Spain, from our subsidiary there. But as an industry, I think we must do much more to create awareness of what we are doing. Asphalt Advantages is just one tool. I can't hear you.
Yes, I know. I realized I had muted my mic. Normally I keep it open when we're talking. You talk about, so you've talked about LinkedIn, and tell us a little bit about this Asphalt Advocates experience. What was it, for those who don't know?
Well, the Asphalt Advocates experience, in the first instance, it was a very nice one because I was honored to be the first Asphalt Advocate. Back in 2017, I got a call from Carsten, and he said, you have to come to Paris. I said, why? I sent one of my guys. No, you have to come. And all of a sudden, I was an Asphalt Advocate. Asphalt Advocates, I think we have now the 5th with Susanne. What are we doing? In the first instance, now we had, for the first time, the Asphalt Advocates Corner in the EAPA magazine. It is a very good media to tell the industry what's going on. As an Asphalt Advocate, I see our role, but on a little bit of look at me, on a bigger scale. Bigger scale means, in my eyes, we are doing too much inside our industry. This was mentioned in the first instance already, that we have to go out of our industry. We need to address the public. We need, when I heard all the statements about recruiting people, back in the early 2000s, Dr. Ray Brown already said in Frederick, Maryland, if we are not careful enough, if we don't pay enough attention to position our industry in the right place, we will have bad problems getting people who will drive the industry further. And this is also something I see for us as advocates, to advocate that we show the people, we show the public why the industry is that interesting. And also, to make them aware that, and this is what I read in the comments from Fiedler, people think asphalt stinks, asphalt is dirty, it's dusty. Bah. No, it's not. Asphalt are the arteria of every modern life, and asphalt itself is durable, is sustainable. We can recycle it 100%. So at the end of the day, we are talking about an environmental friendly technology. And this is something we need to communicate. And this is something we can do excellently using the tools we have now with the social media.
Okay, brilliant. Let's get the other panelists involved, and please do carry on sending in your questions. We have another one. We have this experience, and we have one more to go. So we're almost coming to the end of the session. Thank you for your concentration and for thinking of all these questions. It's not easy, but please do keep sending them in. So would someone like to react to what we've been hearing from Horst? We've been talking a bit about channels and how the different channels have different messages, and obviously LinkedIn is a much more professional kind of message. It's a different kind of audience, which is not necessarily also your industry audience. I mean, it can start with that, but it can get wider. Would someone, I can see lots of nodding going on here. Would someone like to add something? Would someone like to say something? Okay, go on, Esther.
Yeah, so we found at NAPA that LinkedIn is the best channel for reaching both departments of transportation, but then also for reaching the industry. So if we have something that's really industry specific, that's the channel that we use. But when we want to talk to the general public, we use Facebook and Twitter for that. And if we want to talk to our lawmakers here, all of our lawmakers are somehow on Twitter. So we do actually segment based off of who we're trying to reach. So that's always the first question I ask our engineers or our government affairs team is, who are we trying to reach? And to Horst's point, it's 100%, he's right. We have to stay positive. So whatever we're saying, we need to figure out a way of if it's a tough thing that we're talking about, figure out a way to put it in positive terms so that people can hear what we're saying, but also that we're reinforcing the positive advantages of asphalt.
Okay, Curro?
Yes, very, very fast. Think that all of us, we've got an analogic part, like a person, and we can develop a digital part. If you began to develop this digital part of you, of your image, of your branding image, many things began to pass to you. So remember that every people with social media tools can be a unit of communication. And perhaps we haven't got so clear, but the person that we are going to see on Thursday in the Future Leaders, they've got very, very, very clear.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anyone else have anything to jump into on this? Juan Jose?
Yes, evidently, my personal experience, and when I start with the social media 12 years ago, at least, or much more, I start with LinkedIn. LinkedIn was the unique reference in terms of the. It's very good. It's very good. This period was incredible. It's necessary to remember the actual level of LinkedIn is totally different. LinkedIn 5 years ago. LinkedIn today offers much more interaction, much more ideas. Is much better, but evidently, consider LinkedIn, consider Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, or Twitter. It depends. It depends your strategy. It's not a question to say it's much better this channel than other. I personally, I am in all the channels. I am a preference. I am my depending your idea, depending your communication. You must to use this and. The second angle is to remember the evolution between the different social media permits in one period consider or refuse one social media channel like LinkedIn. LinkedIn today is much more attractive under my point of view than 5 years ago.
Okay, thank you. And I just want to say one more thing. We're talking about social media here, but there's been a comment that's been bubbling along in the comments, and I'd like to mention it now, which is from Micah Sutor-Fielder. And it says, to send positive benefits of road construction, we can basically use every truck with a nice slogan, and it's not so expensive. So don't forget, we're talking about the virtual world, but there is also the out-of-home real world going on too, and there are other opportunities there. Okay, I'm now going to say bye-bye to my panelists again, because we're going to our last story. This is becoming quite amusing, actually. It's great. Thank you. The technical team are doing such a great job. And now let's go and have a look at our last experience. And this is about the mobilizing potential communicators. And it's International Road Maintenance Day. And the scope was linking maintaining roads with protecting the environment. That's an interesting one. The challenge was mobilization of potential communicators. The solution was use of Twitter for global impact. And the added value was creating the International Road Maintenance Day friends, partners, media, and sponsors. And to discuss this final communication example, I'm now joined by Juan Jose Potti, who's we've seen quite a few times, and I think you know who he is. I don't need to introduce him anymore. So can you tell us, why was this, and we've heard about World Road Day, why was this Road Maintenance Day so important?
Well, International Road Maintenance Day evidently tried to celebrate one very important activity is the maintenance of the roads. This is evidently the first goal, but we try to attract attraction to be more attractive, this idea, because we try to use the three most important angles under my point of view. The first is the green angle, the environmental impact. This is very important. This year, for example, the slogan was maintaining roads is protecting the environment. Evidently, I explained this morning, and the majority of the people know perfectly, when we talk about the maintenance of the roads, if you don't maintain the roads, one of the problems is the eveness or the potholes start, and finally, one of the consequences, you lose the patrimonial value, you lose in terms of security, etc., comfort, etc., etc. But one very important angle is you improve your consumption, and the most important angle, you improve your emissions. Your emissions are much more important under this idea. International Road Maintenance Day link the importance to maintain the roads with this angle, the environmental. And the third angle is the innovation. Maintaining roads was trying to produce new innovation to reduce these emissions. Is the second angle. And the third, evidently, is the use of the social media, Twitter. And under this point of view is crazy. We try to do this day, always the same day, first Thursday on April. For the next year will be the 7th April. And we try to attain the maximum capacity to mobilize. Evidently, the majority is people linked in our activity, but why not other people to consider, for example, a professional of the transport, the importance to be sure to have a comfort in the road. And each year is more and more stakeholders aiding, helping in this idea. And our goal is very clear. Is very ambitious. Try to be trending topic in several countries in the world. Trending topic, as the majority of people knows, is the most used hashtag in a country this day. It's a very ambitious goal, challenge, but we made last year. We were in Spain, in Mexico, and Guatemala, we were trending topic in 3 countries. This is the in short message about the International Road Maintenance Day.
Okay, well, thank you. I think I'm now going to bring back in our other panelists because we're starting to wind up. So I want to hear their reaction to this one. It's a bit similar to World Road Day, but actually it's got a different scope because it's very much the Twitter thing. And in fact, we had a question on Twitter about Twitter, I should say, from Bernd Hinrich, who says, I think in Europe on Twitter, we are only connected with ourselves. The industry follows only the industry there. Was that your experience, Juan Jose, in your day and the trending topic?
Yes, we made the last 3 years were a trending topic in Spain, and the last year was in 3 countries, as I said. And evidently, to arrive at this level, it's necessary to mobilize a lot of people. For example, in the figures of the last year, it was quite 8,000 tweets in 24 hours. Evidently, it's a very high level. And the number of different active accounts was 1,200 accounts. This for me, the big news, the most important news is not only implied, the people involved in our activity. If not, for example, transportation workers or people who consider the environmental aspect very important. Or each year is more and more different countries. Japan, for example, or South America, evidently, each year is more and more important. But not only this angle, other angle is the different stakeholders that support our idea. This is the good news.
Okay. Anyone else? Suzanne?
Yeah. I like that comment very much and the related question to it. And that was exactly why I asked earlier the question, do you reach the people you want to reach? Because this is also something I perceive is that we kind of keep informing, our little community. But this is a little bit like preaching to the converted. And what we don't manage, at least from my point of view, is really to extend the inner circle. And yes, the tweets and the messages are being seen by others. That's true. But it would be good to have also ambassadors outside our little universe who help us spreading the word on asphalt. And this is something I believe
yes, evidently
work on.
Yeah, very good idea. Well, we try to do this, but under one angle different is the family. The IMD family is different level of activity or participation at personal level. If you send more than 5 tweets this day, you will be in the list. You will be in the website. Well, each year more and more people are in this list. This is at personal level. At the organization is the same. Is your company try or your association send several tweets? We consider it's a partner, evidently a sponsor. Several companies each year help us to develop, because finally it's a problem as all in the life. It's a question of money also, and we try to collect different participation, and evidently the fourth is IRMD media, different journalists, different consider is a very important angle. And each year this circle, I feel is much and much bigger. This is the question.
And also,
thank you for your idea.
The bigger the circle gets and the more the noise makes, then the more interest you get from the media, and then etc.
Exactly.
I just wanted to pick up on a point. I'll come to you in a minute, Horst. There's someone who's Malcolm Sims has said hits and clicks are only one metric or tool. As industries and companies, we are still judged on volume and profit. Well, yes, that's true. I mean, we can't argue with that. But then again, if you get your communication wrong, that can actually affect your profits. So, you know, you want to be getting it right. You want to be going across the net and over the negative message. Joanna?
I think Horst might have been first, but
oh, sorry, Horst. I'll come back to you.
I'll take that advantage. I don't normally want to do that, but one of the things that I was thinking about the volumes and the profits. At the end of the day, we do know that we have challenges going forward, and we heard those in the two first sessions today and at the Congress, and we know Sweden is certainly one of those cases where there is a massive focus among the politicians on rail. The National Transport Administration tries to put more and more focus on road maintenance because they know the traction that you can get from that, from the funding. But the politicians go back and say, no, we're not going to spend money on roads, we're going to spend money on rail. And this is where we need to mobilize. We need to make people understand that a road network is a sustainable solution for Europe. It's if we look, for instance, at what are the major impacts from a road network, that comes from the type of energy / fuel that the vehicles use that use the roads. We have regulation coming on in Europe and elsewhere in the world, where we know that energy mix will dramatically change, and therefore the emissions from the road as a whole over the lifetime of the road will change dramatically. And that, I think, is a message that we and other people that are dependent on the road network really need to work together on getting out there. It is a viable, sustainable alternative to rail, and yeah, just wanted to get that in there.
And in fact, that ties in with a question that Pablo Alvarez has had sitting there the whole session, which is, what do you think from a emissions commitment perspective? Now, I don't want to open that whole argument now, but obviously, if we're talking about sustainability, then that's a really important thing. And when you're being able to connect your work and communicate about your work and the sustainable efforts that it is and contribution it is making, then that helps get that message across very well. And so, Horst.
I have one more thing to add.
You've got nothing to add?
No, one more thing.
One more thing. I thought you said nothing.
No. And I would have shut up. One more thing to add is when we think asphalt, when we think roads, we think about passenger cars, we think about buses and trucks. EAPA has started a campaign, Runners Love Asphalt. I'm not a runner because I have a car. But
interesting.
We have bicycles. And to ride a bike is getting more and more popular. So we should address that trend and the possibilities we have with bicycle roads, bicycle ways, express bicycle roads, much more to the public right now. And what I have in front of my eyes is a post I saw from Korea. They have an expressway, 2+2, and in the middle of an expressway, they have a bicycle way, and on top of the bicycle way, protecting the bike riders from rain, and to give a little bit of shadow, they have solar panels. Fantastic. So this is something we need to be more creative.
Yeah,
we need to look what others are doing, and all of our green parties, they will appreciate that when we talk about bicycles instead of trucks.
Okay, well, on that, I'm now going to have to, unfortunately, close our panel discussion. Thank you for everyone. You've shared really great experiences. There's been a heck of a lot of information given out there, and we've had a lot of questions as well. So that's really great. And I want to understand what has stood out for the audience. And so we're going to go to another Slido poll. and it's the last one of the session. And so click on the polls tab, and you'll be seeing the question in a moment. The question is, what would you rank as your top 3 most important takeaways to support you to optimize future communication tasks? And so your options are: know your target audience and their perceptions, identify optimum channels for target audiences, use education to improve understanding, speak the same language, mobilize potential advocates, increase reach from digital channels, create emotion and interest, and set realistic goals. So you've got quite a few choices there. And so if we can now launch our poll, please. Here it is, and it's open for you. So please now cast your votes on that. And I'm going to leave you time to cast them for a second or two. No one's playing so far. Oh, thank you. Two people so far. So do keep those coming in. And you can vote on more than one answer, of course, because we want to try and see what your top 3 are. Now, I'm very glad to see at the moment that Know Your Target Audience is trending, because that was the one that you really wanted. You had the biggest problems with at the beginning. So the fact that you have got some more insight into that is great. Do keep voting for a moment. We'll just keep that voting for a little bit, because I'm going to be wrapping up in the session. It's been a long day for you, and I'm sure you're ready for a break in a moment. So I'll just try and get over 20. Here we are. It's over 20 people have voted. And so it's Know Your Target Audiences is 81%. And then we have identify optimum channels for target audiences. That came up quite a number of times. And I hope you've been given some insights on which channels are good for which audiences. And then create emotion and interest. And I think really, from what we've heard this morning about trying to get through to the end user who really has a negative perception of the industry, if you explain to them how you enable them to go on journeys, and it's all thanks to you that they can run safely and be on their bicycles safely, that's a different way, because that's an emotional connection to their lives and not the actual, let's say, physical aspects of your work. So I'm now going to close that poll. Thank you very much indeed for voting. And it was Know Your Target Audience, identify optimum channels, and create emotion and interest. Thank you very much indeed for voting on that. So we're now coming to the end. I'm delighted to see that you've picked up some points that are going to be useful for you to apply once the Congress is over. Tomorrow morning's sessions start at 10:30 in Madrid time, with 3 commercial sessions back to back. And then the first 2 technical sessions of the day will start at 12:30. Running all the time, whenever you want, is the networking lounge for you to continue discussions and started in the sessions, and to exchange views with other participants. And you can pop into the virtual exhibition with over 40 booths at any time, though they will only be staffed with people you can chat to between 11:30 and 6:30 p.m, again, Madrid time. So the only thing left for me to do is to thank all the participants for a fantastic workshop and great discussions, and thank you, the audience, for all your voting in the polls and for sending in those questions and voting on other questions. From me, Aminda Lee, it's goodbye. Enjoy the rest of the Congress. And with that, I now close this session.